Raine had waited a long time for this moment, the confrontation with Noir, now Diablo. But it didn't begin with the clash she had imagined. It began with something far more dangerous: recognition. The simple act of him remembering her name unsettled her, cracked the armor of certainty she had carried for centuries. That flicker of delight she felt, it was almost embarrassing. And in hindsight, it was the exact moment she lowered her guard. Primal pride is a curious thing. It flares strongest when you think you're untouchable. It blinds you to caution. And in Raine's case, it was her first and almost fatal mistake. She goaded him, tested him, wielded her authority as if the name Guy Crimson had given her could shield her. She insulted Rimuru, teased Diablo, danced on the edge of provocation, and yet all of it was met with an answer that cut straight to the bone. Do you want to be erased from this world forever? The words were simple, unadorned, but the intent behind them was pure, terrifying, and immediate. For the first time, his mask cracked. The composure, the calculated restraint, it fell away to reveal something primal, something cold, something utterly unrelenting. The battle that followed was a study in contrasts. Raine fought with precision, her every movement calculated. Ubiquital mist shrouded her, a cloak of survival, an illusion of control. She reframed past defeats as draws. She clung to semantics. She refused to admit weakness aloud. And yet, beneath the bravado, there was fear. Clear-eyed, sharp, undeniable fear. She knew he wasn't trying. Worse, she knew he didn't need to. Diablo's power was a constant, unyielding, and terrifyingly versatile. Then came the revelation that shattered her understanding. Diablo's magic circles unfolded, layered, inscribed with holy spells. Disintegration itself, the technique even demons fear. Borrowed, of course, from Lady Luminous. The implication was devastating. He was no longer bound by demon limitations, faction rules, or expected weaknesses. Raine's mental narrative fractured. Confidence bled into uncertainty, certainty into dread. The thought struck her like a lightning bolt. I realized that I might not win this. A primal who measures herself against gods, who has never hesitated in the face of death, admitting vulnerability. This was a rare, raw confession. Pride had carried her into the fight. Awareness would be what carried her out alive. Raine survived naturally, but survival did not erase the change that had taken root. She returned to her teasing, her deflection, her familiar mask of superiority. Yet beneath it, the world had shifted, and she knew it. Diablo's arrogance cut deeper than any spell. While fighting, he spoke casually of other opponents, praising Rimuru with an almost devotional fervor, revealing truths far more dangerous than any attack. When she learned what he meant by Tensura, shock eclipsed pride. Blanc had been named, not just named, recruited. The revelation was crushing. Rimuru had gathered the Primals, Tensura, Ultima, Carrera, names that dismantled the balance Raine and her peers had spent centuries maintaining. It wasn't a loss of battle, it was a loss of era. The old rules no longer applied. Demons thrived on rivalry, on the sharpening of self against self. Unity under a single banner was wrong, terrifying in its inevitability. Raine's fear, then, had a new target. Not Diablo, not the ancient demigod before her, Rimuru, the unassuming slime who now dominated her private list of catastrophes in waiting. Pride gave way to pragmatism. Titles mattered. Respect was currency. Survival demanded adaptation. I'll follow the trend and sincerely call him Sir Rimuru. One sentence, one choice, and she acknowledged a new axis of power, a new world order. The confrontation ended not with triumph, but with restraint. Raine and Guy Crimson withdrew, leaving the crisis in Diablo's hands. Guy's concern wasn't rivalry, it was prevention. A surge of power this vast could endanger the world. And Raine's unease deepened when she saw the quiet acceptance in Guy's expression. I'm sure Sir Rimuru will take care of it, no matter what happens. For Raine, that was a turning point. To question that judgment was unthinkable. And yet, the gamble paid off. Rimuru resolved the crisis. Lady Luminous's dominion over the Western nations remained intact. Relief outweighed pride. Some burdens were best left to others. The reality settled like ice over a once-living fire. Tensura's evolution into a demon peer confirmed what Raine had long suspected. Rimuru's subordinates were exceptional. Carrera and Ultima were just behind in her mental hierarchy of catastrophes. Her policy became simple: avoidance. Let's try not to pick a fight with Sir Rimuru, all right? Even Mizeri, usually brash and teasing, conceded the wisdom of caution. Awareness, not fear, became the currency of survival. Raine had seen enough to understand the new order. She would not challenge it. She would observe, she would measure, she would adapt. Her composure cracked fully only when she met Rimuru in person. Walpurgis, all past trials, retroactively dismissed. This was the reckoning. Her verdict was immediate. Sir Rimuru really is a freak of nature. Not from hostility, not from envy, from recognition. The density of power and intent he radiated could not be ignored. The shock deepened as Rimuru casually evolved Raine and Miseri. Strength granted, not seized. Elevation so profound that even Guy Crimson would nod in acknowledgement, reluctantly. For Raine, this was recalibration. She had survived, but survival was no longer enough. Among these new powers, even a Primal had to reconsider her place. Visiting Rimuru's nation only deepened the unease. The first meeting with Velzard was cordial, refined, flawless. Watching from Guy's side, Raine noted an uncanny resemblance. Rimuru and Guy reacted the same way, endured Diablo with identical patience, thought along the same lines. The resemblance was too precise to dismiss. And then there were the subordinates, Benimaru, Shion, others, emanating Demon Lord-class presence, some beyond it. More presences lingered, 3, 4, perhaps more, none of them demons. The rules she had relied on, the absolutes she trusted, had quietly rewritten themselves. Then came tea. A trivial courtesy, a simple gesture, became the final blow. A slice of strawberry shortcake dismantled Raine's culinary pride with surgical precision. Technique, balance, restraint, mastery born not of indulgence, but of understanding. Otherworld knowledge, monster-adjusted ingredients, flawless service from Shuna. Raine reeled. Fear had transformed into reluctant admiration. Power, refinement, consideration, all in excess. For the first time in centuries, she found worthy competition, and a king who terrified her, not by strength, but by competence. The petty provocation that had opened this chapter ended in revelation. Over cake and tea, Raine confronted Diablo about the gap between them. His answer was simple. Everything he had gained came from Rimuru. Not conquest, not evolution through struggle, reward, no shame. Is that a problem? He asked. She had already lost the argument. Power earned through loyalty, granted without hesitation, overturned everything she believed about growth. Even Miseri conceded the point. Pride could not find a foothold here. Discipline, not violence, dictated the resolution. Shion physically and verbally shut Diablo down. Shuna ended the dispute with effortless authority. For Raine and Miseri, the shock wasn't in the scolding. It was that such volatile figures could resolve conflict without fighting. Then came the ultimate shock. What Raine had taken for hospitality was a prelude. At Guy Crimson's prompting, Rimuru offered more than courtesy. He offered power. With ease, with trust, he elevated Raine and Miseri beyond demon peers, remade them as devil lords. No trials, no demands, just trust, just gift. Rimuru's just agreed to give you some of his power. Words that defy comprehension, actions that demand recognition. Raine could only label it as she had labeled everything else about him, crazy. But the effects were undeniable. Their magicules soared. Their usefulness to Guy increased. Their sense of obligation deepened, not from coercion, but from gratitude. Training resumed, as it always did, but the world had shifted. The barrier they maintained would soon be tested again. Danger never sleeps. Motion, vigilance, readiness. These were constants. Raine's story closes for now not as a skeptic or rival, but as a beneficiary. She had learned the hardest lesson. In a world reshaped by Rimuru, even the strongest, even the oldest, even the primal must keep pace. Respect replaces fear. Awareness replaces pride.